And welcome flip clock fans. We're going to take a look at more black light flip clocks. A black light gives off harmless, highly energetic ultraviolet UV light that is invisible to humans. Certain fluorescent substances like paints or dyes absorb UV light and re-emit it at a different wavelength, making the light visible and the painted object appearing to glow. In the United States, blacklight posters emerged as part of the psychedelic fashion scene between 1967 and 1969. The style was popular in advertisements for concerts and further promoted and commercialized by various companies. Designs range from concert posters up to the bizarre. It has been said by some that the art form has gone out of fashion and is viewed as a relic of the 1970s. Perhaps, but blacklight posters have continually been produced since the 1960s and still have their niche in the decorating world. It's not difficult to find black art posters online, as well as elaborate tapestries and other decorative items, especially on Etsy.com. Also, around 2007, there was a resurgence in the popularity with black light and glow-in-the-dark parties. We're going to look at these clocks here. This is the Copal 705L. We've seen this in the videos here before on Flip Clock Fans. I'm going to take a closer look at this clock later in the video. And the Copal LP245. We've seen a video of this here at Flip Clock Fans before. Copal also had the LP248, which was a blacklight flip clock. GE had one. It was the 74333. They're kind of rare. But hey, they had more than one. They had the 74380. Again, rare to see that. Panasonic had the RC-707. And they also had the RC-7462, which is a clock we're going to look at more closely in this video as well. Sony had the TFM C400 with black light. They also had the TFM C620W, as well as the TFM C650W. They were really big into black light, Sony was. They had the TFM C720W. They also had the TFM C770. And finally, Copal had the Copal 321L. So here in Flip Clock Fan Studios, we have the Copal 705L. This is a clock that I have already replaced the black light in. And I've used a new array than I have in the past. I'm going to show you how I did that. I've already got this partially disassembled. And there we see a transformer. So that's a transformer that's going to transform 120 volts, in my case, down to 12 volts. It'll input anywhere from 100 to 240 volts, this particular unit will. And it'll give us a nice 12 volts to run our UV light there, which we're going to take a look at now. Now this clock, the 705L, is a really interesting flip clock. It's made out of aluminum. It's anodized aluminum, which means that's not paint on the aluminum, it's electrically applied finish. Really neat clock. You can see the black light there has lightened up the numbers as I struggle to get it out here. And there you can see the array there with 6 LEDs. It's the AM RC UV6, and I got this at superbrightleds.com. It's used mostly for cars and motorcycles, highlights different places on your vehicle. But in this case, it fits in there real nicely. Now, in this case right here, I had to actually shave off the edges. This is just soft plastic. So I shaved off the edges a little bit to make it fit in there perfectly. And it does. Gives off good light. Now to stick it to the clock here, I used some of this adhesive from Whirlpool. It's used to glue the felts on dryers so it can take some heat. It's better than hot glue. A lot of people like to use hot glue, so it'll stick, but it can be broken loose if you need to. I really like this stuff because it can handle the heat if you're up around a transformer. Now here is 120 volts coming into this transformer, and you got to make sure you're getting it off the main wire here and not trying to take it off something else. Now this is the DC. I've got extra cord here. There's no reason for that. I just left it there in case I wanted to rearrange things. But there it is. And you can see it goes to the LED array there. I think it looks really good. Now, it's hard to get these to show well on video or pictures sometimes. You'll have to trust me, it looks really nice. It's a nice even green. So I think this is a good solution for these flip clocks, the ones that, especially the flip clocks without radios. But here's the flip clock radio that I had put 3 LEDs in the past. This was back in the old days when I first got started. And what do we got here? The Panasonic model RC-7462. A little bit more about this clock. This clock came out in 1972 and could still be found in advertisements in 1977. They call it the Everett. Panasonic liked to name their clocks. This was the Everett. It has the exciting black light numerals. It came out around the time a lot of the nice clocks came out, and you see it was running on the high side as far as the clocks that were available at that time. You see this goes from 17, 30, 40, 50, and the Everett was at almost $80. So what was happening in 1972 when this clock came out? Well, we know the Vietnam War was going on, but also Apollo 17 was getting ready to come back. Apollo 17 was the 11th and final moon landing mission of NASA's Apollo program and remains the most recent time humans have traveled beyond low Earth orbit. Its crew consisted of Commander Eugene Cernan, Lunar Module Pilot Harrison Schmitt, and Commander Module Pilot Ronald Evans. Apollo 17 astronauts Eugene Cernan, the last person to step foot on the moon, and Harrison Schmitt, the last still living of the most recent to walk on the moon, and pictured here, spent 75 hours on the moon. The Panasonic RC-7462. That's why I like flip clocks. They've got history. It kind of recalls what was going on back in the day. And you can't hardly tell, but that's actually got the light on right now. You can see a faint glow there. There's a little better in the dark. So again, this is back in the day when I was trying to figure out how to do this. I don't think they had as many options as they do now with the tape and with the modules that we're going to put in here today. Or else I just didn't know where they were at. So we're going to try to put one of these converters inside this radio. Now the problem is this can cause some interference at times, especially on the AM band. Now the FM it doesn't seem to affect that much, but if we can get this module away from the main circuit board, we should be able to light this up without interfering too much. Well, here's the one we're going to use, and you can see it's got the sticky back, the 6 LEDs. Now the thing is, this light was on the bottom originally, but I'm going to probably put it on the top, and I think there's room for it there. So here I've got one of these modules and I'm going to power it up. Your AC comes in here, your DC comes out the other side. It's small enough to where it's going to fit in most places, but you're going to have to dig around and find a spot for it probably. Now there's other options. You could get a converter that stays on the outside of the clock. You wouldn't have the interference problem, but you'd have 2 wires going into your clock. Now that is an option, and it might be an easier option. No one's going to notice that anyway. Okay, so we've got the unit lit up here. This is what it looks like. And you can tell already that it's just going to blow away those 3 LEDs that I got in there. It's going to provide a really good light and get those numbers glowing like they probably did back when the clock first came out. I'm just going to have to figure out where to put that, and hopefully it won't mess up the radio too much. And it's probably going to have to be over towards the left side where the transformer is. So we'll get into that and see if I can't figure that out. But what I'm going to do is, like I said, I'm probably going to put this on the top versus on the bottom and see if we can't get this looking like it did back in the day. So what you got here is I've got the 2 wires for the AC. I've soldered them right into the main wires that comes in, and there's the transformer. I've got it glued to the other transformer. Kind of out of the way, it's not interfering with anything. Again, I'm not getting too much resistance on that radio, not too much interference. And there's the LED on the top. And on the bottom where the bulb originally was, I've put a piece of reflective tape. That's aluminum tape. A lot of people use that for their duct work in the homes, and it works great for something like this. So there it is. It turned out really good, I think. Again, this looks good in person. It looks fairly good on the camera here, on the picture I've taken. So it's an option that you have if you're trying to get an LED into your clocks. I'm going to keep these running for a while, continuously running, to see how they hold up. I can report that back later. Hopefully it'll hold up good. Well, thanks for taking the time.